My name is Nora Vance. I'm 35 years old. And that morning my sister called to tell me that our father had died. He was sitting less than a meter away from me, calmly stealing bacon off my plate. 6:30 a.m. I put the phone on speaker. "Nora, Dad died last night," my sister Chloe said, her voice cold like a bank statement. "He left absolutely everything to me and my husband. You're getting nothing." Behind her, her husband Derek laughed loudly straight into the phone. "Finally, you're out of the game, dear sister." My father set his cup of black coffee on the table, leaned slowly toward the speaker, and said something I won't repeat just yet. Because Chloe didn't hear it that morning. But you will hear it exactly where and when she was finally forced to listen. But here's what none of them knew. The funeral they were already mentally counting money at was scheduled for Sunday, and Dad had personally chosen the flowers. Lilies. My late mother couldn't stand lilies. But Dad had just smirked and said she wouldn't mind skipping this particular ceremony. Welcome to Quiet Drama Stories, where the quiet people who were treated like background finally start speaking, clearly, firmly, and with undeniable dignity. We tell stories about family, betrayal, and justice that inevitably finds those who were underestimated at their own kitchen tables. If this story resonates with you, leave a comment below. Tell us what city you're listening from, and don't forget to subscribe. 9 months earlier, in October 2025, my biggest problem was my night shift schedule. I'm a certified anesthesia and intensive care nurse. At the time, I worked travel contracts, moving from Columbus, Ohio across the country. 13 weeks in one clinic, 13 in another. Travel contracts are the only real way for a girl from a small town like Danville to fully pay off student loans before turning 40. My father treated that nomadic life with irony. "You drive across 3 states to hand pills to strangers," he'd tell me on the phone, "but I can't get you to come change the filter in my own furnace." That was Arthur Vance. In the fall of 2025, he turned 74. Army service from 1971 to 1975. After returning, he worked in other people's garages until 1982, then opened Vance & Sons Auto Repair on Highway 12 and ran it for 35 years. He sold it in 2018, retired at 65, and moved nowhere. He stayed in the same house on Oak Creek Road that he and my mother bought in 1985 and paid off by 2010. My father wasn't rich in the usual sense. He was rich in the everything paid off category, small-town rich. The kind of quiet wealth you'd never notice from his worn shoes or faded jacket, but that becomes very noticeable later, in county records. My mother, Elena, passed away in March 2023. My father processed grief the same way he fixed engines his whole life. Silently, daily, without drawing attention. Every Saturday at 8 p.m., he wound the small brass mantel clock my mother kept because she always said a stopped clock makes a house feel dead. He cooked for himself, drove his restored 1979 Chevrolet pickup he rebuilt bolt by bolt, and called me every Sunday. I called him too. We were fine. Fine. Everyone was fine. Then one clear October day, my 74-year-old father climbed a ladder to clean leaves from the gutters. Asking for help was never his strength. The ladder slipped on wet grass. He fell from about 3 meters and landed badly on his right arm. A complex fracture of the radius and wrist, the kind that requires surgery, titanium plates and screws. 6 to 8 weeks of healing. Not a tragedy, just an unpleasant accident involving metal hardware. At that moment, I was midway through a contract in Dallas, but I flew to Danville Hospital within 36 hours. Because that's what normal families do. When I walked into his room, my younger sister Chloe was already there. She had brought a large bouquet, and her tears were arranged as carefully as the flowers. Her husband, Derek, was vigorously shaking the lead surgeon's hand as if closing a real estate deal. Derek worked as a senior loan officer in a mortgage agency. He had a voice like warmed maple syrup and a rehearsed, confident handshake. "Go back to your patients, Nora," Derek told me, squeezing my shoulder condescendingly. "Family takes care of family. We'll handle everything." At the time, it sounded like concern. It took me months to understand what he really meant. It was a man taking the keys to someone else's life right in front of me. Before leaving, I asked questions. I'm a nurse. Discharge planning is my language. I asked for his discharge summary, follow-up schedule, medication list. Derek smiled and assured me everything was organized, copies made, originals taken home. Chloe added, "We've got everything under control, sweetie. You need to go back." My father, groggy from pain meds but in good spirits, gave me a thumbs up with his left hand. "Go, kid. I'm in professional hands." So I flew back to Texas, and I want to be very clear about this, because it matters. I didn't leave because I didn't care. I left because the two people closest to his bed kept telling me everything was under control, and one of them had already decided how deep that control would go. In November, after the first stitches were removed, Dad moved into Chloe and Derek's house. 15 minutes from his own. Just for a couple weeks, they said, until the cast comes off. That's when the first document appeared. A legitimate one. His dominant right hand was immobilized. He couldn't sign checks or drive. Derek brought a notary and Dad signed a limited power of attorney for bill payments. Only utilities and basic expenses. He signed with his left hand. That document was clean, logical, routine. That's how it starts. Not with crime, with small family help. Chloe posted a photo. Dad at her kitchen table with soup. Caption, "So happy to take care of Daddy. Family is everything." 200 likes. Meanwhile, Derek casually referred to Dad's house as a highly liquid asset. I caught it. "You mean his house?" "Sorry, realtor habit," he laughed. Dad later told me he noticed things. Papers brought to his bedside, not the table. The pen already scribbled. Pain in his wrist. Foggy thinking. He read household payments only and signed. That was the last document they showed him before asking for his signature. Then the wall began, one polite brick at a time. My calls were intercepted. "He's sleeping. He's tired." For 3 weeks I didn't hear his voice. His phone fell in the sink. I sent a new one, it disappeared. Sent another delivered. "Oh, that." "He refused it," Chloe said. "He can't handle technology. My father rebuilt a carburetor at 70. He can handle a phone." I knew something was wrong. I demanded direct contact. Asked for video calls. Doctor contacts. Every time, the same wall. "He's resting. We're in control." Why are you always negative, Nora? Here's the truth no one tells you. When a capable adult is in someone else's house and they politely say everything's fine, you have no legal leverage from hundreds of miles away. Chloe ended one call with, "You chose your career, Nora. Let the people who stayed do their job." I flew home for Christmas unannounced. Dad's chair was pushed into the corner, cast gone, but something else replaced it, a shrinking presence. He sat quietly while Chloe answered for him. He'd lost weight, drinking decaf by doctor's orders. I got him outside for 10 minutes. "My checkbook's on a strict diet, kid," he said. Bank statements had gone digital, passwords only on Derek's laptop. He asked twice to see balances. Same answer. "Why worry, Arthur? You trusted me. I asked to review finances after the holidays." "Families don't need lawyers, Nora," Derek said. "Notice that. I asked for statements." He brought up lawyers. Chloe cried on cue. My father stopped me. "Don't start a war on Christmas." January 6, 2026, I signed another contract in Houston, the most expensive signature of my life. By February, calls felt scripted. I took 4 days off, flew in secretly. Chloe opened the door. "Oh, you just missed him. Fishing trip with veterans. In February, Ohio. I drove to his house. Frozen lawn. Mail piling up. Curtains closed. At a gas station, I ran into Frank Prescott, my father's longtime friend. "Nora? Arthur hasn't been to meetings in months. We thought he moved in with you. He wasn't fishing." I called Chloe. "Different friends," she said. Lie on top of lie. 3 days later, she sent a photo of him smiling stiffly. Something in the background didn't make sense. It would take me 5 months to understand it. My contract ended in May. I went home determined to see him. My phone rang. Martha Hetler, a nurse I knew. "Nora, we have a patient asking every nurse if they know Nora Vance. Says she's his daughter." I couldn't breathe. "His name is Arthur Vance. Is that your father? They never mentioned a nursing home." "Not once." "He doesn't look like someone who needs care," Martha added. "He looks like someone hidden." I didn't call Chloe. Some conversations happened face to face. 2.5 hours on the road. Quiet Meadows stood behind a faded sign. Inside, disinfectant and neglect. Understaffed, medication delays, empty chairs. My father had lived there 10 weeks. He was in a shared room, windows sealed shut. He'd lost weight, wore someone else's shirt. But his eyes, sharp, clear. He looked at me. "Took you long enough. They said you knew. Said you agreed. They didn't just hide him. They hid me from him." We spent 90 minutes unraveling 7 months of lies. Phone taken for scams. My phones never reached him. My letters never delivered. In March, Derek brought him there for 2 weeks. Floor repairs. 2 weeks passed. Then silence. They told him I was too busy for him. He kept my number on a scrap of paper. I tested him clinically. Date, president, calculations. It's Tuesday. I'm in purgatory. And your test is easier than Derek's mortgage stories. His mind was perfectly clear. Then he whispered, whatever they used to put me here. I never signed the second document.